Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, Thank you, everyone, for your time in attending this presentation. Quick introduction. My name is Tanmay Bhatt. I'm a registered professional engineer in the United States. I worked in the US for about 10 years and recently relocated to India. And I work with Mott MacDonald. We are a global design firm, design and consultancy firm. We work in various sectors: water, energy, transportation, and others. Right now, here in this conference, our water team is participating with a couple of my colleagues who would be presenting after me, and three of my colleagues who did poster presentations. So we are a global firm. We are based in different countries, like US. We are globally headquartered in the UK. We also have presence in Middle East, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and other countries. This presentation that I'll touch upon is on disinfection of wastewater. So this session, or this session is about wastewater treatment. Disinfection is one of the components or one of the final components of wastewater treatment. I'll touch upon that a little bit, and one of the novel techniques that is being employed in the United States. I'm not sure if this is practically being employed in India right now, but we can draw parallels from what is going on around the world. And as we continuously improve wastewater treatment in India, which through all these presentations we've been hearing that that is an issue, it impacts water quality. We can inculcate some of the latest technologies and trends that are ongoing around the world. So with that, I'll get started with the presentation. So high level on wastewater disinfection. Uh, Disinfection is the last step of wastewater treatment. It is used to kill bacteria and viruses that could enter your receiving waters, which are generally rivers, like the Yamuna River here. You treat wastewater near the river, and then you discharge into the river. The most common disinfectants that you may be aware of that is used worldwide is chlorine. There are some other alternatives like UV, ultraviolet rays, and ozone. But ozone is expensive to generate. It has to be generated on site. And even UV requires expensive setup and maintenance. So the easy choice and the readily available choice is chlorine. So you may question that if chlorine is there, why do we need to consider other disinfectants? Well, while chlorine is easily available, it is very effective, but research has shown that it has some negative effects. The chlorine, so when you disinfect, you add chlorine, not all of it gets consumed while the water is being treated. Residual chlorine enters your water body. And when that happens, that chlorine reacts with the organic matter that is in the rivers to form some byproducts. And those byproducts are carcinogenic, which means they are cancer causing. And what usually happens is you have your discharge going in the river, and then somewhere downstream you have an intake for a water treatment plant. So if we are dumping in large amounts of chlorine, that could be reacting with the organic matter to produce some cancer-causing byproducts. The other thing is too much chlorine in water is toxic to aquatic species. So there's a need to look at some alternatives. So why peracetic acid? What is peracetic acid? So it is peracetic acid originates from acetic acid, which in common language is vinegar, and it does have a vinegar-like smell. It reacts with hydrogen peroxide. When acetic acid reacts with hydrogen peroxide, it forms peracetic acid. Like other disinfectants, peracetic acid has a high oxidation potential, and that's why it is used as a disinfectant. It is already being used as a disinfectant in our food, beverage, and other industries. So the researchers and engineers and scholars, they thought, why can we not use it in the wastewater industry? And the answer was, yes, we can use it. There has been ongoing research that is proving that wastewater disinfection can be done by effectively using PAA. Now, and I'll call this PAA because peracetic acid, the acronym would be PAA. Since this is an oxidizing material, we need to be cognizant of some of the characteristics when we store it, how we handle it, and what are some of the compatible materials. Because the practical application, you need to store it in large drums or totes. And for that, we need to select appropriate materials which will not react with that acid. So plastic products, stainless steel drums, those are good. While handling, one needs to be very careful. Like I said, it's originated from an acid, so it is highly corrosive. People must make sure that they wear protective equipment gloves, and there should be a safety wash and a safety shower inside. If it's kept outdoors, that's fine, but if it's kept indoors, the area should be well ventilated. What are the pros and cons? Pros are it's easy to use, similar to chlorine. There are no known disinfection byproducts of PAA so far. So doesn't mean that there aren't any. It means that none have been found by research. So in future, they could say that, okay, this also has DBPs, but as of now, that has not been proven. The biggest thing is it does not impact pH. In wastewater treatment and in water treatment, pH plays a big role. PAA does not impact your pH adjustment in the water matrix. It has a low freezing point. It can be used in colder areas, and it is not known to be toxic to aquatic species. So the two downsides of chlorine can be negated by the use of PAA. The cons are that right now, it is not widely used, so it is not widely produced. So it is expensive than chlorine. Definitely, chlorine is being used in bulk, so the production is in bulk. You have centers of production in every state, in every vicinity. PAA might have to be transported long distances and adds to the cost. There are residual limits to that as well, which are very dependent on where you are, depending on the jurisdiction. And it increases organic content in your water body because it comes from an acid. So that was a high-level overview of what this was. So this is a project that I was involved with. This was in the Northeast US. It is a practical application of using PAA for wastewater treatment. So the background was that there were 6 wastewater treatment plants, and the client, a municipal client, they came to us that the disinfection performance is not satisfactory. They are violating the permit, and they were getting fined by the government because of that. They were using UV for disinfection. So what we suggested was, because PAA is also known to be, perform much better when it performs in conjunction with UV. So we suggested that let's try use of PAA at your plants. And we started with a pilot setup, because any new thing, you want to try it out small, and if it works out, you want to then scale it up. Of course, we were changing the process, so we had to coordinate with the local, the state regulatory body, which in the case was a Department of Environment Protection. And then we coordinated with the vendors to get the required equipment, and we designed the whole system, which I'll show a picture in a bit here, but it included a bulk tank, a small pump setup, and then dosing locations. So the design characteristics of this setup, we identified a target dose based on the wastewater metrics. We flow paced the dosing, because your flows that the wastewater plant receives is not constant. You might have higher flows at one point and lower flows at another time. So we paced the dosing pump based on that wastewater flow by tying it with a flow meter. We utilized existing structure to do the dosing, and we made sure that enough contact time was provided. So when you put in PAA in wastewater, it needs some time to react with the with the bacteria to kind of kill them. So this was a setup. On the right is a setup that is indoors, and on the left is a setup that was outdoors. The one on left is similar to the one on right, but just it is covered because of the freezing temperatures. So we had a roll top cover. The one you see in right includes a drum, which was a drum from the vendor, a small pump up on that, peristaltic pump, and a containment pallet, because if something happens, you need to contain the spillage. Like I said, materials are very important. So the discharge pipe or tubing in this case was Teflon, plastic pipe. And we used a residual meter to make sure that whatever is going out after treatment is not violating the limit that has been set for that plant. So before you start, and this is a high, general pointer for any pilot setup, before you start a pilot setup, you want to confirm the chemical that you're getting from the vendor. In our case, the vendor said that the chemical that they're providing is 15% by volume. We did the confirmation by bench scale testing, and we found out that it was 18 to 20%. So it had higher content. If we would have gone by what the vendor said, we would be dosing more than we thought we were dosing. So first you need to confirm that. we need to do some bench testing because every wastewater plant will have a different characteristic of wastewater. So what works for that plant? So we took some samples from the plant and did testing for different time periods and different doses to identify what would work for that particular plant. So once that was done, we repeated the process, 6 of the plants, and we came up with some results and recommendations to the client. So the results showed us that overall, the whole project was a success. PAA was dosed successfully at all the 6 plants. It showed that only PAA was not effective enough, because if they would have used only PAA, then still they would have had permit violations in terms of their regulated bacteriological limits. But when we used PAA along with UV, that's where we saw that it was all the permit limits were being complied to. And the conclusion from this was that the client, they should continue using these pilot setups, and we even recommended them to think about scaling it up to a more permanent solution, because along with doing technical advancements, we need to be cognizant of the budgets they work with. Even here in India, we don't have unlimited budgets for wastewater treatment. So we need to work with what we have. So we did not recommend them to take away the UV. We said use a UV, make sure it's maintained, but also add a little bit of PAA. And by doing so, they were able to achieve what they wanted to achieve, and in future, they could continue doing so. So, thank you. That was it from my side. And I'm happy to take any questions at the end or during the lunch session. No, because drinking water has different set of standards, and the rules at least in the US are very strict. There are only certain chemicals you can use for treating drinking water. PAA is still new, and until a rule is formed for a certain chemical, they wouldn't allow its application for treatment in drinking water.
Okay, thank you.